Who's ready to get their landing page on? Me. All right, in this lesson, I'm going to show you click by click how to create 3 different types of landing pages using the Thrive Architect WordPress plugin. Now, before I dive in, if you haven't already purchased your Thrive Architect license, and that's going to run you $67, I would be forever grateful if you purchase through my affiliate link. So I'll link that below for you, but that's bit.ly/Thrive Now 2018. Again, bit.ly/Thrive Now 2018. That's all one word, Thrive Now 2018. Now, throughout the lessons in this training series, I'm going to show you all kinds of features and ways that you can use Thrive Architect. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to create specific types of pages, like landing pages in this particular lesson, and share a ton of tips and tricks for integrating Thrive into your WordPress website. This is no bullshit, going to change your web design game. So, without further ado, let's tackle some landing pages. All right, so here's what we're going to be working on. Like I said, I'm going to show you how to create 3 different types of landing pages. So I want to show you some before and afters because this shit is going to geek you out like crazy. So listen, by the time we wrap this series, you will be able to create these kind of pages on your site in a matter of minutes. I pinky promise. So for the first 2 landing pages, I'm going to create using Thrive templates. All right, and then the third I'm going to be building out from scratch, which is why I wanted to show you 3. I really want you to understand the different approaches you can take depending on what feels right to you. All right, so this particular lesson is going to run a little on the longer side, but I don't think you're going to mind with all the knowledge bombs I'm going to be dropping. So here's the first template I'm going to be working with, and both of the templates I'll be using in this lesson are included with your Thrive Architect license, so you can use them and build them out following right along with me if you want. So this is a really popular landing page style. It's got 2 columns and a place for an image. You'll find the same type of template on lead pages and pretty much any other page builder template library you find. The structure is totally top-notch. The aesthetic of the default template is fucking nauseating. So what I want to show you with these first 2 landing pages is how to take a Thrive template and make it your own. Right? Literally obliterate any hint of the original template, and it's really not hard to do. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to take this template and turn it into this. Hello, beautiful page that looks like it took forever and probably buckets of cash, right? Guess what? It took neither. And then here's the second template I'm going to be showing you today. And again, great layout, not real inspiring design right now. I'm going to show you step by step how to turn that into this. Very similar to the last example, but this one's got a double opt-in. I'll explain exactly what that is later if you're not sure, but it's got a double opt-in instead of the opt-in form that I used on the last example. Now you're probably pretty familiar with my brand identity, so I kind of felt like maybe you wouldn't really see how you can literally make these templates your own. So I'm also going to really quickly show you how to take this same template and create this completely different page, right? I want to drive home the point that these themes are truly customizable. I don't want you to think for a second that you can infuse your brand identity into these designs and make them seamless to your brand style. And then lastly, for the third one, I'm going to show you how to build this landing page from scratch, meaning no template, because it is super important that you understand how to create pages from scratch as well. And there's a reason I usually start from scratch, and I'll explain why that is when we get there later in this training. All right, enough teasing. Let's head over to my Thrive dashboard and get busy already. All right, here we are. This is the Thrive Architect dashboard. This is a new page I created. You're going to create the page just like you would any other WordPress page, and then go ahead and open the Thrive Architect editor from that page editor in WordPress, just like I showed you in the intro video. So like I said, this first landing page, I'm going to use a Thrive template. So to get to the templates, you're going to come down to the bottom here, click this page setup icon, and then choose a landing page template. Now what I usually do is come over to this top right side, click this, and what you can do is search for the specific type of page you're building. So in this case, we're building a landing page, so I'm going to click the lead generation, and that'll bring up all of the landing page templates. As you can see, there's a fuck ton. any style, any type, whether you want video, if it's a webinar, if it's a product. I mean, it is, if you can imagine it, it's in here, all right? So for this first landing page, I'm going to be using the flat lead generation template if you want to follow along. So I'll just click that and then select choose template. And that's going to load that template right on this page in the dashboard. Perfect. All right, so let's get busy. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this bar. I know I'm not going to be using it. So to remove any element, just click that element and then come up to the right side and tap the dumpster or the trash icon. All right, now the next thing I want to do is apply that cool background image I had. So in templates, how you do that, to apply the background to the whole page, is you can get there two ways. All right, so the first way is click anywhere on the page, right, any element, and it'll bring up this, what I call kind of this layers panel. So basically this is saying, you know, I'm active in the heading. The heading is located in a column, right? The column is part of columns. And then that columns feature is on the Thrive landing page template. So if I click the landing page template, it will get me to the menu I need, which is the landing page settings, okay? So Thrive landing page, it'll tell you right up here what feature you're in. If I clicked the headline, you'd see it says heading up here. Now the second way that you can get to the Thrive landing page settings is you can come down to that page setup icon again, and you can select landing page settings. Either way, it's going to get you to the same place. So once you're in the landing page, what you want to do is come down to the background section. Now you can add a color background, gradient, a pattern. We're going to add an image. So I'm going to click the image icon right here, choose image, and that'll open up my WordPress media library. And I can select an image if it's already uploaded, or go ahead and upload it just like you would in any other page or post. I've already updated or uploaded this image, so I'll click the image I want to use, insert into post. There you go. That's simple. And then just click apply and we're good to go. All right, so let's start styling up element by element. So I'm going to click into this sub headline. Now this right side menu, it's going to update based on whatever you click, and it is going to be your ride or die. Okay, you're going to do probably 98% of the formatting using this right side menu. If you're on any text element, you can use this top menu. It doesn't have nearly as many options, obviously, but if you just want to quickly align something or change the heading or link something, this is the easiest place to do it. But like I said, the most of the work is going to happen over here. So again, I'm going to click in that subheadline and just do a little formatting, right? I'm going to make it, I'm going to transform it basically into my brand identity. So first thing I'm going to do is just highlight the whole thing. You can either double click it or just select Control All or Control A and type in my new subheadline. Now if I come over to this right side menu, I can start styling things up. So I'll change the color. Now here is, I love me some text transform. So what you can do is either make everything uppercase, you can make it capitalize each word, or lowercase. I love uppercase. That's part of my graphic style with my sub headlines. So I'm going to select the uppercase. I'm going to come right below this, and we've got font size, line height, and letter spacing. So I can use the slider, make this a little bit smaller, and I'm going to come over to letter spacing because part of my graphic style for my sub headlines is I always add 2 pixels of letter spacing. And below that, I can update it to my actual font theme. So if you click in this window, font face, this is really cool. And this is another reason why I always suggest that you build your font theme out with Google Fonts, if at all possible, at the very least for subheadlines and for body text. Now here, this is why, you can access any Google font. You don't have to have it loaded on your website, don't have to do anything. If it's on Google Fonts, you can search it out and apply it to elements right here. So I'll click this. My font is the Montserrat, so I start typing it, it'll start populating it. I can click that, bam, it applied it right here, and then just click the actual apply button. Perfect, right? So let's do basically the same sort of thing to this main headline. So I'll click inside of it, click Control All and type in my new headline. Now for this one, this is assigned the H1 heading. Now I know that the typeface I want to use is assigned to my H2 heading. So this is going to pull in your actual headings. So a lot of WordPress themes will allow you to assign different fonts to your different headings. Some of you have probably coded it in with CSS, or maybe you're using a plugin. This is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and change this from the heading 1, which you can see that's blue, it's selected. I'm going to change it to heading 2, so it'll update to the Robinson Press theme or font that I want it to use. Perfect. So now I can click inside that and come back over to the top and start styling this one. So I'll change the color to white again. I will, let's see, use the slider, make this font quite a bit bigger. Perfect. Now I don't need to apply any letter spacing to this particular typeface that I'm using, but I will obviously hit the line height, so this is not quite so bloated. And again, I'm just going to use the slider and just eyeball it. Now another part of my graphic style is I always like to highlight a couple words in the main headline, so I'll just click inside that, scroll what I want or select what I want, and come over here and apply that color. Now we can do the exact same type of formatting to this paragraph. I'm not going to change this placeholder text. I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to format it. So again, I'll change the color to white. I will reduce the font size just a bit, and I will update it to Montserrat again. And I might come up and adjust the font size just a bit, and maybe even the line height just a bit. Perfect. Next, I'm going to click on the image over here, and I'm going to update that. So if I click on the image, come back to this right side, select Change Image. It'll open up your media library again, and you can go ahead and select the image that you want to use, insert into post. Now again, you've got a slider here. You can adjust the size. You can apply different styles. There's all sorts of things. You can link it up. You can type in what you want the title and alt text to be. You've got effects, padding, all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to bother with any of this, but I will be showing you these features as we go through this training series. So next up, this button. Now for this landing page, I decided that I wanted to use an opt-in form instead of a button. So I want the actual form fields to show. I don't want this to be a double opt-in. So what I want to do is remove the button and add the form. So again, to remove any element, just click on that element, and then top right side, click the trash can icon, and that will remove it. Now I can come over here, and what I'm looking for is the lead generation feature. Now you can either scroll, or if you know the name of it, you can always just come to the top and search it out. There are quite a bit of features, so sometimes you're just wasting time scrolling when you can just type it in. So I'll go ahead and drag that over, make sure it's going to drop right in the place I want, which is right here below paragraph text. Now the same sort of ability to style everything up exists here. So I'm going to click in this element, and then I'm going to select Edit Form Elements. Now I can select each of these input fields or the button. Now this is cool. So I'm going to select this top name input field. I want you to make sure that this line, apply changes to similar elements, is ticked. Because what happens is if I style something in this input field, it will automatically apply it in this. Everything but an icon. So let me show you. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to apply an icon just so you can see what this looks like. So for name, I'll use this little guy right here. Now you see it applied an icon. Now up here it's selected for right, so I'm going to change it to left so it's by the actual placeholder. Again, you can even update the placeholder. So you could say instead of name, let's just change it to first name. You can select whether you want that to be a required field. And then we can style up the actual placeholder. So I'm going to change this to the light gray in my palette. And I'm going to update the font to my Montserrat. So I'm going to click this drop down, select Google Fonts. I'll cover these other options in another training. They're very cool, but they take some setup and I want to be able to really go through those. So for right now, I'm just going to select Google Fonts and again, type in Montserrat. And you notice that applied that to this input field as well. So I could come back up, I could change the size, I could use this down arrow, maybe make it 15. Now if I want to style the actual icon, I need to click that. So I'll click the icon, and then I can change the color and I can change the size. So I'll go ahead and dial this from 25 down to 20, and then I'll change the color to my light gray as well. Now you see the placeholder first name is a little bit far to the right, so I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to click back on this main input field, right? So I was on the icon, and again, if you're ever unsure what menu you're in, look right here. At the top, it will signify what element you're customizing. So I want to make sure that I'm in this lead generation input, and I can scroll down to the padding. So right now it's got 55. I'm going to dial that down to 40 and see if that's better. That's perfect. So I'll go ahead and click on the email input field, and I'll go ahead and add an icon there. So again, just click this, search for whatever icon you want. There's the envelope, and then style it up just like it did. So shift it to the left. We'll change, oops, actually we need to select the icon. And now I can dial it down to the same 20 pixel size and change it to my light gray again. Now what I also want to do is apply a rounded corner to these two input fields. So if I click any one of them, scroll to the bottom to this borders and corners section. So you can't really see it, but there's actually just a slight border applied to that. Let me dial it up to 10 so you can see it. Now, I don't want a border because this is a nice bright white form on a really dark background, so I don't need a border. But if you do need a border, even if it's just some really subtle light gray just to kind of define the box, that's where you're going to do it. So you could change this to 1 pixel, and then you could change it to some kind of gray color. I don't want a border, so I'm just going to dial that down to 0. But I do want to get rounded corners, and that's right below. So you can again use the arrows or just type it in. And I think I'm going to apply a 4 pixel. And there you see it just subtly rounded the corners, and it did that to both. So last thing, let's style up this button. We can again click that. You can update the text. Oops. You can update the text. And then press update. And come back to your right side ride or die and start styling it up. So I'll change it to my yellow color. I will come down to the typography. I'll apply that letter spacing I like. I will change or update the font to Montserrat. Scroll back up, and I'm going to click a bold. And I actually don't want this to be the same width as the field. So if I scroll back to the top, there's button width here, and I can just tap this slider and make it a little bit smaller, and then come right below and align it to the center. Now I'm going to apply the same rounded corner, so I'll come back to the bottom and just apply the 4 pixels there. Perfect. Now as soon as you're done formatting your lead generation or your form, just click Save and Close. Now, here's the cool part. So you need to connect this or hook this form up, right, to your email provider, right? So whether that's ConvertKit or Aweber or MailChimp. Now to do that, first you have to connect the API to your email software. So what you're going to do is come back to your WordPress dashboard. You're going to search for the Thrive dashboard on the left side bar, and then select Thrive dashboard. And that'll open this window. If you scroll down, this first one right here, API connections, go ahead and select Manage Connections, and it's going to open up a screen where you can select your provider. So I've already got mine hooked up, ConvertKit, but let me show you how this works. You won't see this, obviously. You're just going to see this button. If you hover over it and click, now you can hit this drop down and select whatever software you're using, right? And they're all going to look a little bit different. Setup looks different because they're all sort of programmed different, right? So if I click Aweber, it's going to walk you through it, right? And this screen is going to look a little bit different. If I, let's see, choose Constant Contact, you see that setup looks a little bit different. That's the case for all of them. Let me show you one more. Let's see, Drip. Again, But whatever it is, it's in there. They have tons of apps, pretty much anything you can imagine, and it will walk you through exactly what they need from you to set that up no matter what provider you're using. Once you have that set up, then you can go back to the Thrive dashboard and you can connect your form. So if you select the form, instead of clicking Edit Form Elements, which is actually formatting the form, we're going to select Connect Form to Service. Now, you should see your API listed here, or your email software here. So I've got ConvertKit. I'm just going to select that. That's going to open up the next window, which is a list of all the forms you have in that software, right? So you can scroll through. These are all the forms I have in my email software. Select whatever one you want and click Continue. And then this screen is going to allow you to set up the field. So do you want email, first name? You can delete a field if you don't want it. Obviously, email is a permanent field. You can delete first name. You can add other fields. You can choose what's going to be required. And then press Next. And the last step is to choose what's going to happen after your visitor opts in. So do you want to reload the page, redirect to a custom URL, or show success notification? Let me make this easy for you. Always redirect to a custom URL. The problem is when you load a page, your visitor is going to be confused. Okay, did the opt-in go in? I don't really know. The page just refreshed. It's not a very clear sign. And frankly, that's really the case with a success notification. Those are usually just a small line of text. It's really easy to miss it, especially on a mobile device. And again, it's just going to leave your visitor confused if they actually opted in or not. If you just redirect them to a thank you page, it's very clear and you have another opportunity to have them take another action. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We will cover thank you pages in another lesson. But for right now, you'll just click this. Ignore the save message. This will appear every 10 minutes just to remind you to save. It's a good habit. You can turn that off. I like to have it on because I get kind of busy and I forget to save. So you'll click Redirect to Custom URL and you'll paste your URL in. If you haven't built your thank you page out yet, you can go ahead and leave that blank and come back. Either way, you want to press save because that is ensuring that your form is now integrated into your email service provider. You can see it right here. So let me go ahead and save this page so we don't get that annoying message. And then we'll tackle the last element right here, just this credit bar. So I usually just have a copyright, the branded solopreneur, and then I always link to my privacy policy. So I want to link this text, this privacy policy text, to my actual privacy policy page. So I'll select that portion, come up to the top, click this insert link, and then here's really cool. If I just start typing out privacy, this feature will search your site for pages, posts, and light boxes. So anything named with whatever you're searching, it will pull that up. So you can see right here, pulls up my privacy policy page. So I'll just click that. You can select whether it opens in a new window and whether it's a no-follow link, and then just click Insert. Now, as soon as you link something, it's going to turn to this blue color. So you just have to come over to your menu and change that to the color you want, and then come back over to this portion of it and do the same thing. Change it to whatever color you want and format it however you want. I'm going to make this quite a bit smaller. Perfect. That's it, right? So a couple other things. I like to give some more breathing space up top. So I want to move this whole area right here. So again, I can click anything, make sure I'm getting the columns because I want everything on the page. And you can see it's signified by this green arrow that's saying everything in this box is what you're going to be styling, or everything that you do is going to be applied to this area. So all I want to do is apply some more margin. Just give this a little more breathing room. So if I scroll down on my menu, I can hit the margin is at 20. I'm just going to dial that up to 50. Perfect. And one last thing, I don't really like that this form is the same width as these headlines and paragraph. So if I click that and come over, scroll down, again we've got max width. So I'm just going to use this slider and adjust it a little bit. Maybe right there, and then use the align to get that centered again. And if anything goes wonky, like I don't want this button to be on, this call to action on the button to be on two lines, so I will click this, come back to edit form elements, click the button, and just adjust the width again. Sometimes that's going to work. Sometimes I'm actually just going to go to the typography and dial down the actual font size. Perfect. Now save and close. I think that looks pretty damn good. One thing I noticed that I didn't do right now, I didn't bump the padding down on this, so I'll just click that, edit form details, click this email, come down, and I think I adjusted that to 40. Yes, voila! Looking fly as fuck. It doesn't even have a sidebar, right? This is truly a one-page landing template. The form is slick. Everything's dialed in with your brand identity. Here's the cool part. Now that you've got this all dialed in for your style, you can save it and use it again and again. So let me show you how to do that. So come back over to the dashboard. If we come down to page setup, click Save Landing Page, you can name this. So let's say New Landing Page 2018. You can add tags, so if you have a challenge or a course or whatever your funnel is, you can name that, tag all the pages in that funnel with that tag, and now when you're going to look for your templates, you can search for tags. So let me show you this works. So we'll go tag it with this, I think I've used. So just add that and click Save Template. Now the next time you need a landing page, you've got this template and you'll open it up the exact same way. So let's pretend that this is the nice white screen that we started with. You'll come down to page setup. The menu is going to look a little bit different. It should only have the 3 options that you saw when we first started, where you can select the landing page, right? So I'll just open Change Landing Page just to show you what this is going to look like. You would go into Saved Landing Pages, and right there, New Landing Page. I'm just actually going to select that just so you can see it's going to load the exact same page. Now all you need to do is just actually change the verbiage for your headlines, your paragraph, come over to your form, you just change the connection, right? You can come right over here, select a new list. If that's going to have it's going to go to a different form in your email software. Swap out that image. You can swap out the background image if you wanted. I mean, that will literally only take you 2 minutes. So are you getting super stoked? Yay! All right, landing page number 1, check. We are done. Let's move on to landing page number 2. So again, for this second landing page, I'm going to use a template. So we're going to come down to page setup, choose a landing page template. I'm going to select the lead generation just to bring up all the landing pages and scroll. And I think the one I'm using for this is called Rockstar. Yep, right here. So if you want to follow along, we're using the Rockstar theme. So I'll select that and choose template and get that landing page template all loaded onto this new page I created. All right, so let's tackle this exactly like we did the last one. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the background image. So again, we'll click anything on the page just to get to this Thrive landing page settings menu. I'll go ahead and you see this has an image, so all I need to do is actually, you can either click off this image and add the image just like we did, or just click this and click in the box and change the image. So I'll select that same image I was using, and there you go. Now this one doesn't have a subheadline. Oops, I didn't press apply, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to the main menu and just add a subheadline right here above the heading. Now this is assigned default heading 2, so all I'm going to do is come in here and change it to a heading 4. I'll go ahead and center it. I'll type in what I want that headline to say, and then I'll come over to this right side and start styling it up. It's exactly the same as I did. So white, I'm going to apply letter spacing. I'm going to make that capitalized or uppercase. I'm going to choose my Montserrat. All right, so we've got this wonky space. So what's happening is that there's got to be some kind of margin on this. So if we click this element and come down, you can see right here 128 pixels of margin. Now that made sense because, like I said, I like to give a lot of breathing room to the top too, and it didn't have a subheadline. Now that we've got a subheadline, basically we want the 120-ish pixel margin to be applied to this element and not this element. So these two will actually be together. So the first thing I'll do is, as I have this headline highlighted, I'll remove this margin, and then I'll go ahead and click back on my subheadline, and I will probably just use like 120. Perfect. All right, now I can type in the headline that I want here. And again, I will come up and apply the H2 so I can get the typeface that I want and increase the size. I'll do my famous 2-word highlights. Perfect. And then I will style this up. Again, I'm not going to change the placeholder text. I'm not going to worry about that. But I will dial down the size just a bit. Maybe even left align it. And then here, I'm going to delete this lead generation, and I'm going to swap it in for a button so I can show you how to accomplish a 2-step opt-in. So we'll go ahead and select that, click the trash icon and remove that. Come back to the main menu and then drag a button under this paragraph. Now we can style the button just like we did in the last landing page. So again, you can apply any styles you want to the button. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll show you some of that cool stuff in a different lesson. I'm just going to apply my regular color. And here's something really cool. So you can also design on hover. So if you come up to here where it says state, this is default. So this is what the button's going to look like on display. If you click this, you can select on hover. Now this, everything you style as of right now is what's going to happen to the button when you hover it. Okay, so I'm going to change this gray color. I think I usually use this color. And that's about it. Okay, I'm not going to do too much because what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit out of that. And I'm going to come and I'm going to do all the main styling in here. So again, I can change the width. I can change the call to action. I can style that up. See, again, I will select Google Fonts, search my Montserrat, come back up here, bold it, apply my letter spacing. No, I'm going really fast, but this is all the same stuff, right? I'm going to scroll to the bottom and add my 4-pixel rounded corner. Love it. And maybe adjust the font just a tad bit bigger. Perfect. Now before I show you how to do the double opt-in, let's just take care of this bottom credit bar. And again, just like I showed you in the last video, I'm going to highlight that, come up here, search out my page. All right, so let's get back to this button. So this is really, really cool. So click on the button, scroll to the animation and action section in your sidebar. Now, basically what this is saying is that it's linked, right? So you can come up to the top. If you were just linking a button to something like maybe a PayPal or something, you could link it right here, right? You would remove that placeholder and just paste in your link. Now, because we want a double opt-in, right, we want this to open up an opt-in form. Things are a little bit different. It's not a straight up link. So I want to show you how to do that. So again, we'll come down to the animation and action. I'm just going to remove this because we're not linking it. What we're going to do is a pop-up, okay? Don't get scared. It's not actually an intrusive pop-up. It's just a light box. So we're going to choose click. That's what we want. So meaning when someone clicks the button, this is the trigger that's going to happen. And we're going to select Open Thrive Lightbox. And then it's going to open up. So you're probably not going to have these listed. You're going to have these test ones because those are canned. They come default when you load Thrive Architect. But you're not going to have these testing ones that I've created. Now, I'm not going to get into light boxes just yet. That's actually the next lesson, okay? So hold tight with me. I am going to show you what this looks like when we final preview this page, but I wanted to show you how this works. So basically, you design your opt-in box. So you select Open Thrive Lightbox, then you're going to scroll and choose the lightbox you want, and then press apply. So I'll go ahead and use, this is the one I created, and we'll go ahead and apply that. And I'm going to save this page and show you what it looks like in the browser. All right, so here's the page. This is the button, right? So we made it the gray on hover, the yellow on display. Watch what happens when I click it. Bam! I'm going to show you in the next lesson how to create these because it's just like the page, but they're so super duper cool. So hold tight. I know we're doing landing pages, but this is a beefy lesson and I really wanted to get into the actual logistics of creating and customizing your landing pages. But I promise the next lesson is all about light boxes. So like I said at the beginning, I want to show you two variations of this page because I don't want you to think for a second that this is all easy because I'm a designer and I know my brand identity and it can only be done with my particular aesthetic. It's not the case. So I want to take this. I'm not even going to start with the base template. I'm going to start with this because I want you to see how freaking easy this shit is to customize. All right, so let's approach it just like we did. First, I'm going to change the background image. So I'm going to go back to the Thrive landing page settings and I'm going to change the image. So I'm going to use this really cool palm tree. I love this bright, you kind of get brand identity envy. Like I adore my brand identity, but I'm always kind of a little jelly of the ones that have these like really bright, vibrant color palettes. I totally dig those. All right, so I'm going to press apply. I'm going to get off my rant. So this is pretty tough to read, right? I mean, even if we change the colors, this is a really busy background. So I want to show you some creative ways that you can kind of work because I know your graphic style is going to be different than mine. And again, I don't want you to think that it only works with the way that my graphic style is. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you a really creative trick. Now, I need to get this portion, right, these two headlines, the paragraph and the button, I need to get these to have a background, right? This just can't lay on this untouched photo. It's just incredibly busy. So here's how you can do something like this. Really easy again, whether you started with the default template or not. So I'm going to go back to the main menu, and I'm going to add a content box right under this button. And I'm going to drag each of these elements into this content box one by one. So I'm going to grab the button and I'm going to make sure that goes inside the content box. I'm going to grab the paragraph and make sure that goes right above the button. Grab this headline, make sure that goes right above the paragraph, and grab this subheadline and make sure that goes above it. So things don't look very different, but what just happened is let's click on the element and come up to this layers palette again, or this layers panel. Now I've got a content box. Now if I click the content box, it's going to grab all of those elements. Now, you might have already figured out what I'm doing. Here we go. I can come over to my menu, go down to the background style. Instead of an image, I can select solid color. Boom, I'm loving it. I'm going to click more so I can get to the default colors. Right, so here's a bonus tip. I'm going to get into setting all this up in another lesson, but what I want you to do if you're going to tackle the landing page, I want you to add your color palette, right? So you're going to add your hex code in here, and then when you have it in this box, if you select this plus sign, it will save your palette. So that's how I already have my colors here. When you first open it, it's just going to have these default colors. So I'm going to go ahead and use this because I think this teal will work really well. I think it actually matches this photo scary well. All right, perfect. So I'm going to apply that. All right, so next I want to adjust this spacing, right? So I definitely want to give some padding on the right and left side, and I want to remove some of the margin that I had on this subheadline and give this button a little bit more space. So first I'll go back to this subheadline and I'll dial down that margin that I had originally created or added. And then I'm going to go back to the container, the content box. Okay, so not the actual heading, in the content box. And instead of margin, which again is on the outside of the element, I'm going to apply padding. So I'm going to apply, let's say 50 on the left, 50 on the right. I'm just eyeballing all this, okay? So, and then we'll say maybe 75 on the bottom. Yeah, a little bit too much, maybe 50. Perfect. I'm already loving this. All right, so let's change some fonts, right? Because this is a totally different identity. It's probably not going to use mine. So let's say we'll go Google Fonts, search in Playfair. Oh, I love that. Let's see. Yeah, I like it of that. And I'll come up to that text transform, and I will have every word capitalized. Let's tackle line height. That looks a little bit wonky. And let's tackle font size. See what we can get. Ooh, I like that. We can do the same here. I could change this to, let's say, Open Sans. Apply. Now this, if you noticed, now that it's got this lighter color, it's actually got a shadow on this text. So I could remove that, I could leave it. I kind of dig it. I might actually apply that to the headline. So let's click the headline. To add shadow, if you come down here, bam, right there. Shadow, text, and you've got all these. So you can change the angle of it, you can change the distance, you can change the blur. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that as is, and I'll save this so we don't get that annoying message anymore. All right, and then let's tackle this button. It's looking a little funky. So we'll click the button and let's see, let's change this to maybe Open Sans. Didn't make a big change, that's all right. And let's see, we will adjust the actual width of the button. Yes, loving this. All right, now how about we can even get super creative with this container. So let's say we go back to the container element, scroll all the way down. Now, I applied a really subtle rounded corner before. What if you dial that shit up? Let's say 250. Wait where I'm going. Wait for it. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to start playing. I want this to be a circle. So right now, it's not really working. So what I can do is come up, because this is not a square, I'm never going to get a circle. It's a rectangle. So in order to do that, if you scroll to the top, we're going to play with the maximum width again. So look at this. Oh, I am likey. We can come down, we can adjust, we can give it some more padding. I think it's looking pretty good. Let's add a border, right? So again, I can come down to this border. I can say, I don't know, 5. Change that to a white. Oh, I definitely am liking that. I mean, are you seeing? Okay, I'm going to adjust this button because now it's looking a little wonky again. We'll come up here to font size. We dial that down a little bit and also dial the button width. We'll remove the, let's see, the letter spacing, and then dial up the font size. Again, this is all, I'm just eyeballing this stuff. So it's not quite a circle, right? We've got a little flat, so let's go back up to the max width. And that is looking, oh, that's perfect. Right, so we just have to keep adjusting. I'm going to go back to this headline. Ooh, I like that. I'm going to come back up to the subheadline right here. I'm going to give it some more padding. So it's just not quite so close. Oh, I like that. Now, this container is right at the top, so let's make sure we're clicked on the container, and let's add some margin. So margin will push that whole thing down the page. So let's say 100. Right there. Now, last thing, we can come back to our credit, right? You can barely see it now. And we'll just style that, right? Let's make it white so it pops a little bit more. Let's change the font. Let's go back to Playfair for this one. There we go. And you can do the same. Change that link back to white. I'm going to dial down the size a little bit. There we go. And dial it down some more. We can make this. We'll highlight this and dial this down as well. And let's apply some shadow since it's still not popping too much. There we go. All right, let me save this and show you it in the browser. Bam! I mean, that's fly as fuck. I'm sorry, that is. That looks good. And remember, we took that from this in a matter of minutes, right? Completely different identity, completely different style. Is this shit not super cool? I mean, tell me I'm not the only one geeking out. All right, so landing page number 2, check. It is done. Let's move on to landing page number 3. All right, last but not least, I want to show you how to create a landing page from scratch. Now, there's something I want to point out. Now, depending on the theme that you're using, you may already have some sort of landing page or sales page template. So let me go back over to my WordPress dashboard. This is the page that I created that I'm working with. Now, if you scroll down to page attributes and to template, if you hit this drop down, you can see the templates that come with your theme. I happen to have a sales page template. Now, basically what that means, it's not the same type of template as Thrive. It doesn't really come with, a design feature. What that usually means is, let me pop back over here, it doesn't have a header or footer. Okay, so it doesn't have your nav bar header, it doesn't have a secondary menu possibly. They all look different. So my theme doesn't have the header or nav bar, but it does have my secondary nav bar. So it just depends. So if you're building your landing page from scratch, right here, just in the dashboard as is, you're going to have whatever elements. So if you don't have a landing page or sales page template, your page is going to have your nav bar and header. Now, if that is the case and you do not have that and you truly want a landing page that doesn't have that, I don't typically mind this secondary. It's at the bottom, and the way I create my pages, they are usually not scrolled through, and even if they are, I'm okay with this because these are all basically the beginning of my content path. So if they don't want to opt in, these are basically just other ways that they can work with me or other opt-in offers. So I'm okay with it, but I want to show you an option that you've got if you've got no kind of template where it removes this stuff and you really want it to be removed. I will say, I don't think a landing page should have the header and nav bar, that top main navigation bar. I think that's very distracting. I don't mind it at the bottom because by the time they've scrolled through the offer. Okay, it's not as distracting, especially if you've got a header with some big, main image. So let me show you how you can tackle this. You will be using a template, but it's not going to have any design elements. So what you can do, come over to this page setup, choose a landing page template, and then come over to blank. And they've got 3 different variations. Okay, if you use this blank page V2, so select that and choose template. Now this is going to load a completely blank page. So it is in theory a template, okay, but it's not a template that has any design features. Okay, it's got this one default field. You can just delete that and you can start from scratch. Now, here's something to keep in mind, and this is why I typically don't use this particular method. Depending on what social sharing plugins that you're using, you may not be able to add them. If you've got the ability to use some sort of shortcode and manually place social sharing buttons, you can absolutely do that. You can scroll down here and use the custom HTML feature, and you can paste in that shortcode, and that's where your social sharing plugins will appear. I use social warfare. I have not been able to find a way to make this happen on my pages so that it actually appears the way I want it to. So I don't use this blank template Again, I'm just happy to have my secondary nav bar, and I call it a day. So I want to show you how to get back to your theme. So if you're using this or any other template at any point and you decide, you know what, I just want to go back to that white page with the nav bar that I showed you, this is how you can do it. If you come back to page setup, revert to theme. This is going to revert back. I'm going to press OK. This is basically just giving you a message saying this is deleting any elements. So if you did have a template like we used for the first 2 pages and you chose to revert back to your theme, you are losing everything that you have not saved on the template. And I don't mean saved here, I mean if you actually went and saved your template like I showed you, you named it, maybe you added some tags. Unless you do that type of save, if you revert back to your theme, you are losing all of your work. So just some things to keep in mind. Again, this is going to depend on what theme you're using. This is going to look different for everybody. So if you have any questions, shoot them my way, but that's just something to keep in mind. Be aware that you're not going to have the ability to use social sharing, possibly. It just depends on what plugin you're using. Here's a quick workaround. So if you are using a template, okay, what you can do is they do have social sharing buttons. So let me go down here, social share. So you can come here, you can change, you can add a couple others. So let's say I wanted Pinterest, not Google. You've got LinkedIn and Zing as well. I don't like the look of these, but they totally function, right? So if I went to Pinterest, you can upload your image, your pin image, you can put in your description. You can do the same for Twitter. You can pre-populate it with the tweet and your @ sign. So it's functional. And again, this is totally up to you. If my identity wasn't so dark and sort of, you know, that neutral and just the way my graphic language is, these plugins are just ugly and distracting. And as a designer, I just get hung up on shit like that. I don't want to impose on my hangups on you. I just want you to be fully educated about how you're setting up your page and understanding what that means. And keep an eye on that. So check out your social sharing plugin, see if you've got a short code, test that out with a template before you decide what you're going to use. Play around with things a little bit. Just a lot of food for thought. So I'm going to remove this and let's start designing this third landing page. All right, so just a reminder, this is the page that we're going to be building out, right, manually. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. All right, so we're going to build this out section by section. So the first step was that yellow banner up top. So for the areas where you want a background image or a color or a pattern, I want you to select the feature background section. So I'm going to go ahead and click that since there's nothing on the page. I'm not going to bother dragging it. So once I've got that on my page, I can scroll down, as long as that's active, scroll down to that background section and again, apply a color. So in my case, I'm going to apply that my marigold. I'm going to come back to the main menu and then I'm going to add a heading into that section. I'm going to change this to my heading, let's see, 4, and I'll type out what that heading was. All right, so now I can style it up. So I'll go ahead and center it in there. I'll change the text to white. I'll bold the portions of it that I wanted to bold. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply. So I want some breathing room at the top, so I'm going to apply some margin. Oops, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I'm going to apply some padding. So it's inside the element and a little bit on the bottom. All right, so let's move on to that next section. So again, I'm going to select background section. I'm going to click it again because that always adds it as the last element. And since I'm building this from top to bottom, I'm cool with that. So next background section, again, we'll scroll down while that's selected and we'll add an image this time. So I'll choose my image in my WordPress dashboard. And then I'll come back and I will add another heading into that section. I'll center that. I'll increase the size a bit. And then I'm going to come to the background section, right? So right now header or the heading is selected. I'm going to come up to my layers. Make sure the background is selected, and I'm going to give it some padding on the top and bottom. So I'll say 50 and 50. Now I'm going to select this, and I'm going to dial up the size just a bit more. Perfect. Now if it caps out, right, you can always manually put in a larger size. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a subheadline. So I'll just grab my headline feature again, make sure it's above this. I'll change this to my heading 3. Again, just know what your headings are because it makes it so much easier. I know which ones are which and what I like to use for my subheadlines. So I'll go ahead and type the subheadline that I want on this. And I'll just dial down the size just a bit. And I'll apply my 2-pixel letter spacing. And I'll go ahead and duplicate this because I want a subheadline below this. So I'm going to just duplicate this one, click on it, use this crosshairs in the center, and just drag it below. And I'll go ahead and update this with the subheadline I want here. So I'll increase the size of this a little bit. Perfect. And the last element in this section is a button. So I'll come back to the main menu and I'll drag a button below this second subheadline. So I'll change the call to action. I'll increase the size of that a little bit. I will click back on the button. So if you notice up here, if I click on the text on this button, I'm in the inline text. I'm not on the button. Okay? This is why this layers panel is just, it's your second ride or die. Okay? So I'll click button, come over here, and do all my styling up. So I'll apply my rounded corners, and I will change the hover to my gray color. And I'm going to go ahead and save this, and let's see, I'm going to increase this. Perfect. I'm also going to give this a little bit of room, so I'm going to apply some margin to this subheadline to move that button down just a little bit. So I can come up here and maybe apply 25. There we go. Sweet. Are you guys seeing? I mean, we haven't even gotten into any of these more fancy features or anything. I mean, this is all just foundation. It is really that simple. All right, so let's tackle the next background section. So we'll add another background section. This time we will again apply an image to it. So we'll scroll to the bottom here, choose the image that I want. All right, so for this section, I've got a headline and a paragraph element. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the headline into this background section and paste in the headline that I want in there. And I'll go ahead and turn that white and dial down the size just a bit. And again, I'm going to come back to the background section and I'm going to give this bad boy some padding on the top and bottom too. So I'll apply maybe 75. No, that's too much. 50 and 50 at the bottom. Now I'm going to come back and add the paragraph element and just copy and paste what I had in there. I don't want to bore you guys with all this typing. Turn that white and dial down the size just a bit. All right, then I've got another headline section and a button. So let's add another headline feature. Make sure it's below the paragraph. I'll copy or paste this in. We'll center it and see, I'm going to make it all white and then apply a little of my marigold to this line right here. Now I need, I'm going to dial the size of this one down. Perfect. Now I need a button. Now instead of adding a new button from here and having to style it, I've already got one, right? So I'm just going to duplicate this and drag it right there. I don't even need to worry about it. Looking good, right? We got one more section. So instead of clicking this and adding a background section, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this whole background section. It doesn't necessarily have the same elements I want, but that's just easier for me. So whatever is easier, if dragging and dropping and reformatting is easier, go for it. If duplicating at any point is, do that. So I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to make sure that I've got the background section selected, and I'm going to remove the image that's in there now and apply the yellow background. All right, so this does have the headline that I want with that typeface, so I'm going to select that, paste in the headline that I want. I'm going to update the colors that I want this to be. And same thing over here. Go ahead and save that so we don't see this annoying message. And then I'll increase this font as well. Okay, I'm going to remove or delete this paragraph element. I don't need that. I do need a headline, so I'll copy and paste what I have in this section. And I'll just format that up. So center, oops, I'll select it all, center align it, change it to the color I want, and then I'm going to decrease the size just a little bit. Now I've got the button here, that's perfect, I want that, but I need to style it up just a little bit differently. So I'm going to go ahead and change the display color to the dark, and then come up here, hit the state, so I can change the hover to, let's go with the light, my light gray. And we'll exit that state. And we will give this element a little bit of margin so this button has more breathing room. So we'll come up to the padding and margin, and we'll give this maybe 50. Then I've just got one more call to action headline right here. So I'm going to add a new headline right above the button. I'm going to make sure that it's my heading 3. Type in what I want that to say, center align, update the color, add my letter spacing, reduce the size just a little bit, and then I want another heading with this font. So I'm just going to duplicate it and adjust the size of that. And because I want these two to butt up, and there's no padding or margin on anything, right? So there's no, the space that's coming is from line height. So if I click on this main headline and I come up to line height, if I dial that down, bam. Now I can apply a margin to get that button away from it. Yes, and then the last thing I have on my pages is I just put my submark at the bottom of the page. Since I don't have a header and it doesn't have a logo or the brand name, I just like to put that. So I'm going to drag the image just right below the background area and choose my submark. Obviously dial that size way down, center align it, and give it some, let's see, margin. And because I already have my secondary, I'm not going to bother with any credits because I've got my privacy policy and terms and conditions right there. Look how fucking cool, right? I mean, it wasn't that much harder. Maybe it took a little bit more time, but there's also a lot more content on this page. All right, but all we worked with were background area, heading, paragraph, button, image, that's it, right? So let me save this bad boy and I'll show you it in the browser. All right, here we are. So I usually do this, especially when I've built things out, because that's sort of the design bones aren't built into it like it is with a template. So I'll preview it in my browser, and then I usually go back and I apply padding and margin to a lot of the elements. So for instance, I do not like that this is butted up next to the side, so I need to give that some padding. I'd like a little bit more padding here. I'd also like this background section to be a little bit taller. I'd like a little bit more padding here. So that's why I always kind of use the browser opposed to the visual editor to really finalize things. So I'll go back to Thrive and I'll make a couple of those changes. So instead of individually doing padding to the heading and the paragraph, what I can do is select the background section and apply the padding there. Okay, so I'll apply 75 to each side, and then I'll also apply a little bit more at the bottom, and same thing here. So I'll grab this background section and maybe put 75 and 75 at the bottom. Yeah, maybe even give this a little bit more padding from the paragraph. All right, and then I said I wanted this height to be taller. Now, there's a couple ways. I can apply padding, or I can come up here and say, I want this section minimum height. Okay? Now, that's a little bit wonky in this case, so I'm not going to do that. But I want you to know that that's how you can make a background section wider. Okay? Section minimum height. So I'm going to come back down, and I'm just going to do it with good old padding. All right, I think on desktop it looks pretty good. So the last sanity check you want to do, let's head back to Thrive, is make sure that everything looks good on your tablet and your mobile. You always want to get in the habit of testing this out, right? So if anything gets wonky, like let's say the button, so I'm going to come back up to button width. I'm going to make that much bigger. Right here you can see, so on desktop, there's not a padding issue because the screen is so large, but now it's butted up to the side. I definitely don't like that. So I would apply some padding. Go like this, and I could either play with this and make it smaller so it fits on one line, or I could go balls to the wall, and I can make it bigger like that. Just whatever you feel like looks right. I'll change this button width a little bit as well. And then I think it looks good. So I'll do that same process for mobile. And voila, once everything is all good, save it. Save it, save it, save it. Now you can save the templates that you build from scratch just like you could save the other landing pages. The mechanism's a little bit different, so let me show you that. So let's say you want to save this as a template so that you can use it for the next landing page. All right, so you're going to go to the same place. You're going to come down to page setup. But this time you're going to select, there's a different set of options because again, you're not using a Thrive template. So this time you're going to select Save Content as Template. We'll name this Testing Template. We'll go ahead and save that, and let me show you how you get to that. So let's pretend this is a blank page, and you want to load this template for your next landing page, right? Swap out titles and calls to action and all that good stuff. In order to do that, you're just going to come over here to templates and symbols. Okay, so I'm going to click that. Again, pretend this is a blank page. Click that. It's going to open this window. You can see right here, TAS testing template. I'm just going to click that and add it just so you can see what it does. Bam, it loads the whole template. Okay, so even if you start from scratch, once you build this, you can use it again and again. So I'm all for getting your bearings with the templates. I think they're so helpful as far as I'm talking Thrive templates, but I do not want you to get discouraged or try and get away from doing things from scratch because It's really not difficult, okay? And it will allow you to create all kinds of creative pages and get really creative and be so true to your identity. Okay, so by all means, start with a template. I'm not hating on templates at all. I just don't want you to be scared to do this from scratch. I mean, you saw it. We just built it out section by section. If you have your content pre-written, right, in an Evernote doc or a Google Doc, Word doc, whatever, if you have this copy written, it really is as easy as you build the section, paste it in, format it. I mean, you saw it was mostly colors, maybe a bold, center a line, maybe some line height. I mean, it's all really, really basic. So do not be afraid. So go forth, design your landing pages, design your fly as fuck landing pages, and of course, tag me when they're done because I want to see it. And reminder, if you haven't purchased your Thrive Architect WordPress license, I would be so forever grateful if you purchase through my affiliate link. So I will link that for you below, but that is bit.ly/Thrive Now 2018. Thank you so much. And again, the next lesson coming out tomorrow, I'm going to teach you all about lightboxes. So I'm going to show you how to create them, how to use them, how to integrate them on your landing page, all the good stuff, all the logistics. So I will see you in the next lesson. Later.